Hi, Vanessa here. In this video we are going to make this gorgeous scarf here. It's really chunky and we're just going to be using our hands. So these are pre-looped and all you need is your ball of yarn and a pair of scissors and maybe a stitch marker. That's optional. Okay, so this is a great beginner's pattern. You just need your hands. These loops here, they're already pre-looped in the ball. Okay, and this one is gorgeous. It has an ombre effect. And this scarf measures about 57 inches long. If you want a longer scarf, then instead of working with 9 stitches or 9 loops, you can go ahead and follow along with 7 loops. Just keep in mind that these 7 loops will be a lot thinner, so not as wide, more narrow. Okay, and if you want wider, you can use more than one ball. I just had the one ball left. Made this for my son's teacher for the holidays. Okay, so I love working with bulky weight yarn. These are wonderful because a lot of the times the heavier weight yarns are heavy or dense. This is light and fluffy and airy, so even though it's a large chunky piece, it is still very light. Okay, so I used one ball. You see here, you don't need a hook or needles. You can use a stitch marker if you would like, it's optional, and a pair of scissors. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so you want to start by counting 9 loops over this direction. Okay, so this one unraveled on me, so I'll just leave that alone and I'll start counting from here. You want to count 9 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So between the 9th and the 10th loop, I'm going to place a stitch marker there. Again, you don't have to do this step. You can just skip it. Okay, so with these 9 loops, I'm going to make a 1x1 rib. So the edges are going to be knit, and then it's purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And then the last one is knit. Okay, so let's get started with row 1. Okay, so here is my marker. So this is my first stitch here, and then the 10th loop is going to go in to the loop on the bottom. Okay, so basically we're going this direction. Okay, again, this is the last loop here, so this one folds over, and then that one will go into this one is for that one, and so forth. Okay, so to work a knit stitch, you grab the one on top and you place it inside the one on the bottom. Okay, going straight in there and pulling it up like that. Okay, so now we're going to work a purl stitch. Okay, so now the purl stitch is a little tricky. In the knit stitch, we grabbed the one on top and simply just went right through the loop on the bottom. Okay, like that. So with the purl stitch, you want to place the bottom one behind it, okay, behind the top, and then you're going to take the top and then going through the loop from back here. Okay, so let me show you that again. So this is the bottom one, and I usually do this laying it flat, especially the first couple of rows. So the bottom one goes behind the top one, and then the top one goes through the loop in the back and then pull. Okay, so you see that bump? That is your purl bump. Okay, the next stitch is going to be a knit stitch. So the top one goes right into the bottom one like that, and we're at a purl stitch again. So remember, this is the bottom one. We're going to go behind the top one, and then the top one goes down and through the loop. Okay, next loop is a knit loop. Top goes right into the bottom and pull up. One thing to keep in mind is when you're pulling the loop up, the one you're touching and pulling should always be from the top. Okay, so now we're at a purl stitch again. The bottom one is going to go under the top loop, and then the top loop is just going to go right through the bottom loop. Okay. Top loop into the bottom loop for your knit stitch. And then we have a purl. So we're going to place the the bottom loop under the top loop, and then the top loop goes through the bottom loop. And our last knit stitch. Okay, so the top one just goes right into the bottom loop, and we've completed row 1. Okay, so where it ends right here, you're going to move your working yarn this way again. Okay, I'm going to weave this in later. So here's the last loop we worked for row 1, and then the very next loop is right here. We're going to work a knit stitch. We're just following the same pattern. So we're going to work a knit stitch. The top loop goes into the bottom loop, which was the working loop from row 1. Okay, so there's a knit stitch. Now for the next one, we want to work a purl stitch. Okay, so this is the one on the bottom, so row 1. This is the one on the top. So remember, we're going to place the bottom loop behind the top loop, and then the top loop is going to go right through the loop behind it. Okay. And the knit stitch loop. Okay. Hopefully you've gotten used to the knit stitch. Now the purl, we're going to place this one behind. So I say top and bottom because if you're laying it down like this, this is your previous row, it's on the bottom, and then these loose loops are your top loop. Okay, so let's get back to the purl stitch. Bottom loop goes behind the top loop, and then the top loop just goes right down through the loop in the back. All right, so I'm just going to continue that pattern all the way across. Okay, so if you have trouble telling the difference between the knit and the purl loops, just like regular knitting, the purl stitches have a bump across your stitch here, your loop, and then the knit stitches just have the V. Okay, so there's no strand coming across the stitch. So my very next one is a purl. I'm going to go behind, and then the top one goes right through. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that back and forth until you're just about done with your ball, and I will show you how to cast off. Okay, one thing I want to caution you is it's very easy to miss loops, whether it's up here, skipping this one and then accidentally grabbing the next one, or you're missing the purl loop because they do sort of pull down. So just keep in mind how many stitches you have, and you can check periodically in the back to make sure that you haven't left any loops hanging, and you will see the loops hanging out of your work. I've done it so many times when I'm distracted or busy or not paying attention when I'm catching up on my Netflix movies or shows. Okay, so here's an example of a mistake this one fell off when I was working. So right here, this is the very next one that I already worked over here. So what I'm just going to do is take that one out, and then the one that I missed, I'm going to work a knit stitch because this is knits, and then place this one on top into that one. Okay, so we are ready to cast off. I left about 7 loops for weaving in. So with the cast off, you actually want to start on the opposite side of your tail. Okay, so what you're going to do is grab the first 2 loops, and then the right loop is going to go through the left loop. Okay, so we're going to insert the right loop into the left loop, and then we're going to just tug on that a little bit, and then the next loop, so the right loop is going to go in through the left loop, and then we're going to pull that back. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that all the way across, right loop into the left loop and pull. Okay, right loop into the left loop. Okay. Okay, so right loop into the left loop. Okay, so here is my last one. I'm going to cut these loops off. Okay, make sure you don't cut it too far down. You don't want to cut the thread that is holding it all together. Okay, so I'm going to insert the tail into that last loop, okay, and then I'm just going to weave it through, back through. You can tie a knot if you like. I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, I'm just weaving it through the edges here, and you can go up your work. Okay. And then I have my beginning tail here. I'm just going to do the same thing. Start weaving that through the my work. Okay. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the ombre effect. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for future videos. I'll see you next time.